Trader Tina here once again from ShortMeTina.com with my daily recap. Before I recap the overall markets, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. As opposed to recapping individual stocks, I'm just going to focus on the market because you know what my motto is. Overall markets first, individual stocks second, meaning you have to understand what the overall markets is doing, and that should on some level inform how you approach trading, or rather your selection of stocks, whether you're net long or net short. So it's important to pay attention to the overall markets first. Because of what we've been experiencing, I'm going to recap again, as opposed to individual stocks. I'll do the entire market like the SPY IWM, which I normally do. Today, however, I'm going to include the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones, and I think I'm going to do transport towards the ending as well. But before we get into that, let me welcome you. If this is your very first time tuning into a ShortMeTina video, I want to say welcome. If you are returning, I want to say welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us, right? So let's recap the overall markets. We're going to start it off with the SPY, the S&P 500. Right now, what you're looking at is a daily chart of the SPY dating back to around 2017. You can see here that we're off about 2.9% on the day. I see a quote here of 284.02, but I believe we closed at, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that we closed at 283.90, so slightly below this. And right now, there is some activities right now going on in after hours. I believe the low, or the last quote that I saw, was 283.65. So we're a little bit below where we closed for the day. Now let me show you what I'm paying attention to. Obviously, again, this is the SPY dating back to 2017. Essentially, it's been cycling through 2 points for the past 18 months to about 2 years. The lower end of that point, we can call that support, clocks in around 260. The upper end of that point, we can call that resistance. Let's give it a range, 293 to 295. You can see 293 to 295 resistance has served as a resistance level. If you look at what happened in September of 2018, when we got to those levels, we went crashing down. Fast forward to May of 2019, we got to those levels, we pulled back around 7%, and we finally broke through slightly for about a month or two. We broke free of that 293 to 295 level back in June, topping out at around 302 before pulling back around 7% or so again. Right now I see a quote here of 283.55, but again, the close that I got was 283.90. So let's zero in and let me highlight some points that I'm paying attention to. The first point that I'm paying attention to is around that 280 level. You can see also too, if you again, I'm drawing this line. If you go back to 2017, you can also see that that served as a point of resistance. You can more so than the 293 to 295. In the 2 years, 293 to 295 is only tested around, let's say, that 2 times. We can say back in September, back in April to May of 2019, whereas that 280 level was tested several times within the past 18 months. You can see we tested it in February of 2018, March of 2018, June of 2018, October, November, later in November, and again, so we tested that 280 level for quite some time. Finally broke through before we ran into resistance around 293 to 295. And then when it pulled back, you can see it also pulled back to that 280 level. Fast forward to what's been going on for the last 6 or so trading days. And granted, we haven't quite gotten to 280, but we've gotten as low as around 281 to 282. So in addition to that 293 to 295 resistance level, I'm paying attention to what was once resistance, now support of around 280. So if we breach that, whether it be heading into tomorrow, the remainder of the week, or next week, the next stop that I'm paying attention to, I'm going to pull this line down here, would be that 273 to 275 level. You can see we bounced off of it back in March of 2019 before shooting up to 293. You can see we bounced off of it back in May of 2019 before shooting up. So if we break 280, chances are we are going to potentially get a bounce at 273. So those are the levels that I'm paying attention to in the shorter term. Obviously, we can also go back a little bit further and pay attention to longer term support of around 260. But we have a ways to go before we get there. So again, 3 levels I can say that I'm paying attention to. We can call that resistance of 293 to 295. We can call that shorter term, not shorter term, we can call that support of around 280 that extends all the way back to 2017. And if you look at a more shorter term picture from March until present, we can look at shorter term support of around 273 to around 275. So that's what I'm paying attention to with the SPY heading into the remainder of this week and for the remainder of the third, potentially fourth quarter. What else? All right, and so we have the IWM daily chart dating back to, let's pay attention to pricing activity that started around September of 2017. We're off a little bit more on the IWM, north of 3%. I see a quote here of 146.12. So I've stated many times before, because again, a lot has been going on. One day we're down, a few percentage points. The next day we're back up the same amount of percentage points. Rinse, repeat. So things can get a little bit chaotic and confusing. So for me, versus paying attention to the little things or, the little details that's going on in what I call the quote unquote middle here, I'm just going to pay attention to the extremes, right? We can call those extremes because they're pretty well defined in my opinion. We can call the extremes support, which is denoted by this red line, and resistance, which is denoted by this blue line. Support clocks in around 144 to 145. Resistance clocks in around 160. A break or breach in either direction will be, for me, where the market wants to go. So if we breach 144 to 145, for me, I would lean more bearish at that point. If we, again, break above 160, I will lean more bullish to that point. Because if you look back on this 18-month to 2-year chart, you can see that those levels has held, with the exception of the highlighted area, for about 18 months. So today we went as low as 145.72. Again, kind of getting into that 144, 145 support area. But again, dating back, with the exception of what happened in December to January, dating back to around November of 2017, about 2 years, that level has held. So we can, if history is an indicator, we can bank on it holding again. But if it breaches, then we are in new territory, and then look out. Potentially, there is that possibility of us revisiting December lows of around 125. But again, not paying attention too much to what's going on in the middle, paying attention to the extremes, support of 144 to 145, resistance of around 160. What else? All right, and then we have the QQQ daily chart dating back to January of 2018. Let's pay attention to price action around there. Again, I don't typically do a review of the QQQ, but considering what's going on in the market, I thought perhaps it's fitting to, again, recap the entire market, because my motto says overall markets first, individual stocks second. So what's going on in the QQQ? Here it says we're off about 3.3%. I think that's factoring what's going on in after hours. We actually closed, I know you see a price here of 182.15, but that's actually the after hour print. I believe we closed at 182.76, which is a decline about 3%. This further decline in after hours, I guess, accumulate a 3.31% decline with the QQQ, which I believe is a lot worse. The NASDAQ fared a lot worse than the SPY, the IWM, and the Dow. So simply put, what I'm paying attention to would be those extreme levels, resistance and support. I sometimes see those as turning points. So resistance, in my opinion, I drew this blue line. We can say it clocks in at around 189 to 190. And support, we're not quite there. That clocks in my opinion, around 176 to 178. So we're not too far from support. As usual, you might get a bounce when the QQQ revisit support. So heading into tomorrow, you obviously want to pay attention to how this opens up, right? If we open up below today's close of 182.76, and that might be a possibility. It seems like everyone is paying attention to the futures. You might want to do that as well. That might be an indicator on how we open up tomorrow. So that's what I'm going to be paying attention to, whether or not we open up below the close of 182.76. If we do, more than likely, I think you might get a violent move to the downside, and I would not be surprised if we're trading at around 176 to 178. At that point, I would be expecting a bounce. If we do not bounce, a more extreme pullback, let me draw it. A more extreme pullback might be to this area here, where we saw in June of 2019 and around March of 2019, and that is around 169. So a ways from 182.15. So that's what I'm paying attention to with the QQQ. What else? And then we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average daily chart dating back to, again, let's focus in on price action beginning around January of 2018. So approaching about 2 years, we're off about 3%. I see a quote here of 255.28. So it looks like we're up a little bit in after hours. I believe the Dow closed at 255.08. 8. So it seems we're sitting here right on support. The low of today clocked in at 255.06. So we closed relatively close to the we closed relatively close to the low of the day, and we're sitting right on support that goes back to 2018. Now, if the Dow opens up, and again, similar to the QQQ and the others, if it has a violent move to the downside, I can see us retesting what we experienced back in June of 2019, and that low clocked in at around 247.04. So still a little bit of downside here on with the Dow if we do not get a bounce here at support, which we're sitting on right now. So again, there's a possibility we might actually get a bounce in the Dow. If it does not and it craters, in my opinion, expect us to revisit or to get close to June's low of 247.04. So those are the numbers that I'm paying attention to with the Dow. What else? All right, so let's wrap it up and round it out with the transport quickly. What do I see here? We closed today at 57.57, off about north of 3% on the day. Very, very close to support. Support is this black line that you see me highlight right here, and support comes in at around 55 to $56. So again, we closed at 57.57. The low of the day clocked in at around, what was today's low? The low of the day clocked in at around 57.28. So we closed relatively close to today's low. So similar to the other ETFs that I spoke about today, if we open up tomorrow and we open up down and cannot rebound, then definitely I would entertain a print, or where I see support is around where we were trading at when we had that last collapse back in December of 2018. And that price level comes in at around $50 to $51. So still a ways to go if we do not get this bounce here off of support. And again, if you look back on the transport dating back to October of 2018, approaching one entire year, with the exception of what went on in December, support has held, right? That 55 to 56 level support has held for about a year. So again, if we do not get this bounce here, then more than likely we're going to revisit what we saw back in December of 2018 with the transport trading at around, in particular the XTN trading at around $50 to $51. So that's what I see here. All right, so let's wrap it up and round it out there. Tina here once again from ShortMeTina.com. If you enjoyed any portion of any of these videos, I would like for you to do 3 things for me. 1, comment in the comment section. What do you think about the SPY, small cap, NASDAQ, the Dow, transportation? What are your views on the overall market? Do you think that this is a pullback that we should buy and we're heading to all-time highs towards the ending of the year? Do you think this is a beginning of a recession? Do you think we're about to go into a prolonged bear market? Comment in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you in the market? Are you out the market? Again, comment in the comment section. Secondly, if you want more videos like this, I do them Monday through Friday. So ensure that you're subscribed at our YouTube channel at ShortMeTina. And lastly, my friend, I've been trading for well over 15 years. If you think you can learn anything from me, then head on over to ShortMeTina.com, our website, ShortMeTina.com. Sign up, become a member. Thank you for listening. And as always, thank you for the support. I will talk to you tomorrow.